Broken Edge is a VR game that I hold near and dear to my heart since I play it almost daily and I love competing in its many tournaments. But anytime I look at it on social media, inside the comment section, I always see things like this.
Why is this a ripoff of Ironlights?
Knockoff. Reminds me of Ironlights. Ironlights copy?
Gives off Ironlights vibes. It reminds us of Ironlights.
Ironlights clone.
Knockoff.
What the fuck are these guys talking about? I've played both Broken Edge and Ironlights, and while there are some similarities, I don't see enough for people to be calling Broken Edge and Ironlights clone. So, let's compare the two games today and try and understand why these people are saying Broken Edge is a clone of Ironlights. Broken Edge was published November 17th, 2022, and was created by Trebuchet Studios and published by Fast Travel Games. Ironlights, on the other hand, was published April 9th of 2020, and it was created and published by E. McNeil. Video games take a long time to make though, so I would expect that they both at least took one entire year to create the game and have people test it, but probably more than a year if I'm going to be honest. At its core, Broken Edge is a fantasy VR sword fighting game, where it's a 1v1 and first to 3 points wins. You can pick from 10 unique and complex characters who all play differently, even though they all have 4 shared abilities that they can use during the match that refresh after every single round. Every time you hit your opponent, either in the body or on their sword, they'll bounce back and you'll slowly float towards each other until you get to your next engagement. You win a round by tapping your opponent in the body with either an awakened blade if they have health left on their health bar, or an unawakened blade if they don't have health. They can lose health in 2 ways, 1 being cut, where you hit their blade with your blade, and 2 being awakening, how well you awaken your sword versus how well they awaken their sword. That's the core gameplay, and there's not really much more. It's fairly simple, but it can develop to be fairly complex whenever you start facing higher ranked people. Even though Ironlights also has 10 characters, the game's core mechanics are completely different from Broken Edge. While Ironlights is also a 1v1, they don't only use swords like in Broken Edge as your main weapon. Ironlights also has 10 characters who all have different weapons, ranged attacks, and ways to defend themselves from their enemies. While there are multiple game modes, I think the most common one is a best of 3. Ironlights has a health bar and an energy bar. The energy bar refreshes over time slowly unless you deal damage to an opponent to make it go faster, or you can hold 2 buttons while bringing your arms to the side to charge your energy bar at a risk of your health. While you have energy, you can pull yourself to an opponent to activate your attack, where you can only damage them and they can only defend from your attacks. Every time you hit an enemy, you must bring your sword back behind your back to regen it to attack again. If you charged up your energy, like mentioned previously, part of your health bar will start to turn white and you'll take extra damage within that tiny area. Time slows down for both people during an attack, so the person attacking has to plan and the person defending has to try and guess where they're gonna go so they can reach it in time. My only complaint with this system is having more health means you can attack more. So if you attack first and you deal damage to your opponent, then you have the upper hand, since they have less health to use to boost their energy, meaning they can do less damage to you, meaning they take more damage because they have less energy. Broken Edge has 3 different ways you can play. You can either go to the dojo to practice a character or learn how to use their blade arts, go into solo mode and face every single opponent one by one until you beat all of them, which unlocks you 2 different characters. Or you could play multiplayer, where you can either join a custom game for friendly matches with a friend, or tournaments. The only other option you could choose is playing ranked, where you get to pick one of the 10 characters to play as, and you face opponents who also choose a character, gaining you ELO, which is the rating system of the game, for that specific character. There is no such thing as casual in this game. You're either playing a custom game, or you're playing competitively and trying to do your best. Since most VR games have a small player base, this forces everybody to play with everybody else, making the illusion of a bigger player base and making sure you get a match no matter what. Now let's see how long it takes for us to get into a match. The queue times for Broken Edge are never long, they always seem to be really short. Unfortunately, the only downside of this game is there's not really a lot of customization. You can't change the colors of anything, you can only change what character you're playing and what kind of sword you're holding. There's 3 different versions of the sword, and that's really your only customization you get. Swapping over to Ironlights, you can see that it has a multitude of different game modes to play with. There's a campaign mode, which is just the solo mode, and you can gain a lot of money through it. There's also a training mode, where you can create your own characters to face against. And then there's multiplayer, where you can either do a quick match or a custom game. The customization for this game is insane. Not only can you change what your character looks like head to toe, you can also change what color the metal is, what type of metal it is, and the accents colors on it. You can change so many different things in this game, it's crazy. Going into the quick play tab, you can see that there's 5 different game modes and then 2 different filter options so you can face people around your skill level or inside of your region only. I'm going to start with the basic stuff like standard, best of 3, and balanced, which I think are the most fun. This game also has a casual mode unlike Broken Edge, which some people might find more appealing. Surprisingly, my queue time was so short that I didn't even realize that I loaded into the match. Usually this game doesn't have a lot of players, but I guess this weekend that I played, people were playing. It was a lot more than I expected, and I was happy to see this game that I thought was dead get players on it. In conclusion, I would say that Broken Edge is definitely not a copy of Ironlights. I think they both have their own unique charms, with Broken Edge's fantasy-like settings, and I think more simple mechanics. I think it'll be easier for a new player to get into Broken Edge, since it seems more beginner-friendly and there's more players online. The Discord community is also a bit more active, I would say. Buy Broken Edge if you want a game that's easier to get into, but harder to master. I think that Broken Edge is the best pick for competitive play, and if you want to get an exercise in and maybe work up a sweat at higher levels. The game is currently $15, but you can get 25% off if you use the referral code inside the description. I would say that Ironlight is a harder game to get into, but I think that it has some interesting gameplay that you could work around as well. If you're big on customization and less about the competitive experience, Ironlight is the pick for you, since it has a very broad customizable characters, and it also has a sandbox mode where you can play with weapons that you can't normally play with inside the competitive scene. You can also pre-record your own enemies to face, meaning you can play by yourself, or you can play with friends. There also is a competitive scene for the game, but I don't think it's as active as the Broken Edge one, and I don't think the Discord is as active. If enough of you picked up this game though, I bet you'd all have a lot of fun playing. If you join the Discord, you'd probably find a lot of helpful people that you can play with, or they can teach you how to play characters that you're not sure about. The game is currently $20, but if you go into the referral link inside the description, you can get 25% off.